Right, hello everyone. Welcome to the Simply Soccer podcast. Sorry about missing last week. For those of you who are following me on Snapchat, you would have seen that I just wasn't able to get one out because I had a lot going on and just didn't have the time in the end, which is unusual. Usually I do. But I was really caught up on a lot of stuff for the channel, a lot of stuff that I'm actually getting ready for you guys because we hit 10,000 subscribers recently, and thank you to everyone who helped us achieve that. That's an amazing accomplishment. It really gives me goosebumps when I think back to how much this channel has grown in what is a relatively short amount of time. So. Thank you guys so much for that. So I've been getting, certain things ready, certain content. I can probably tell you a little bit about it right now. But one thing I'm going to do is a few people have asked me to do my kind of like my football story or journey. So, like how I, what I was doing as a youth player all the way up to college to this point now. So I think as a 10,000 subscriber special, instead of doing a Q&A like we normally do, which pretty much gets covered in these podcasts because I essentially answer your questions in these podcasts, instead of doing a Q&A, I think I'm going to do that video instead. So I'll do a full in-depth My Soccer Journey type video. The second thing I've been trying to get ready, and some of you, I don't know how many people I've told, but I'm going to be doing a t-shirt or a jersey. I'm trying to make it like a jersey, a 10,000 subscriber special kind of t-shirt launch. Now, what this is going to be, just really quick because I don't want to, take up too much time here, is I've designed a shirt that's going to be a special shirt that's limited edition. I'm never going to make it again. I'm never going to sell it again. And my reasoning for this is so that people who were in and subscribed and watching Simply Soccer in the early days, which is these days, can get a shirt that basically is unique. And I won't be doing a shirt like this, like exactly like this ever again. So I want to give the people who have been subscribed to me for a while and have subscribed at around 10,000 or less to have the opportunity to get these shirts, to get these jerseys. It's going to look like a jersey. I've made it so the new logo that I recently had made looks like the badge of the jersey. I think it looks pretty cool. I'm having a prototype shipped to me. So in the when I announce the shirt thing in a video, I'll be wearing it so you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like. But so I want you guys to be able to have something that kind of represents that you were here early on, that you were part of the Simply Soccer team before we hit however many subscribers this channel manages to hit, but we're moving pretty quickly, so hopefully we can keep growing and growing. But I wanted to give a limited shirt out, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it available once I launch for 7 days, which means only really the people who've been subscribed to me at 10,000 or less, some of you guys have been here a long time, will be able to get those shirts. And yeah, and hopefully you guys will like them. I've made sure they're good shirts, and I think it's a cool idea to kind of give you guys something, something that kind of represents the channel, give you something kind of unique that I'm never really going to make again, for being here pretty early on. And I'm trying to make them as cheap as possible. I'm going to be using Teespring to make them. Okay, so, and again, if like I'm going to explain in that video, if you can't afford to have one or you just don't want to pay the money, it's absolutely fine. You don't have to feel obligated. This is just for people who want something like that. And I've already discussed with a few people who said they would want that, so that's why I'm doing it. All right, so let's get into this podcast. Again, apologies for not having one out last week, just too much going on, but I have a few good questions for you today, and we're going to be doing this a little bit differently. So I have 3 questions planned, and what I want you to do is after each question, I'm actually going to ask you a question that I want you to answer in the comments. So you can write it down regularly here or not, because I've been doing a few courses on self-development recently, and I've noticed, and a lot of those courses have asked me and everyone else participating to write down these answers to the questions that were related to the things that were included in the video or whatever I'm listening to. And what this does is it allows you to take away more from whatever you're learning. So I'm going to ask you questions after I answer these questions, and just leave your answers in the comments. And the reason I want you to leave them in the comments is because I want there to be a community feel to this, so that you guys can help each other out, answer some questions for each other. You can compare notes, things like that. I was a few of the podcasts, I was really impressed that some people were helping each other out, because I can't always answer every question in the comments, but I saw some people trying to help each other out, and I really like that, so I want that to continue. So feel free to interact with each other, help each other out as best you can, help each other grow, help each other get better. So let's get into the first question because I've been rambling on without a question for I don't even know how long. Take a look here. What's that say? 5 minutes? Okay, and I did not set my timer outside of the actual microphone, so I should probably do that as well. But as I'm doing that, let's get into the question, which is how to be more confident with the skills that you've learned. Okay, so this is a good question, and it's one I actually get asked frequently, quite often, and it kind of surprises me because to me the answer is fairly straightforward, but I can understand why it might be a bit difficult. Now, this all comes down to the key word of confidence. It's right in the question, how to be more confident with the skills you've learned. So I'm assuming what you mean by this is that you're learning skills in training and then you're having trouble using them in matches. Now, this is a common problem. I made a video a while ago that went over why some players are amazing in practice, like superstars in practice, but then they aren't able to translate that form into matches. And it all comes down to your confidence. It really does, because in matches, oops, sorry about that. I'm gonna pause that. In matches, you're more likely to become nervous because it's a pressure situation. You're scared of what people will think of you. You're scared of looking stupid. You're scared of making a mistake, right? You're scared of failure. Now, this is natural, but it's something you need to move past, because you can look at any good player and you can find highlights of them messing up, making mistakes, whatever it may be. But the problem is, in order to succeed, in order to do something well, you have to take on the risk of failure. You have to take on the risk of potentially making a mistake. So when you do a move in the match, if you're nervous, there's more of a chance you're going to mess up that move just by being nervous. Even if you've practiced that move 100 times over in your own individual training, if you go into a match and then go to do that move and you're thinking to yourself, oh no, what happens if I mess up? Will I look stupid? Will my teammates get mad at me? Something of that nature. If you go in with that mentality, you're most likely going to mess up. And you'll actually, and this happened to me before, when I was younger, I would be afraid of messing up. And most of the time I would when I thought like that. And then if I actually did it right, I would be so shocked that I would pause and then lose the ball. So it's not a good cycle to be in. So this is something that's not a quick fix. You have to understand that a lot of these things you want to improve are going to take consistent practice on your part. And we talk about the mental game quite often and how important the mental side of football is. And this is one of those moments. Because if you can do a move, the majority of the time very well in practices, beat players one-on-one in your practices, maybe beat your friends one-on-one, that means you have the potential to be able to do that move exactly as well in matches, right? You know how to do it, you've practiced it, you're beating players one-on-one, you're having a good old time. But for some reason you get into that match and you're just so nervous. And this really just comes down to, again, feeling pressure. Now, to help you with this, I'm going to link in the description a video that goes over the difference between why some players are good in practices and not in matches, and what the players that are good in matches are doing, what their belief systems are, what their mindsets are, things of that nature, because that seems to be a problem a lot of you are having. So make sure you check out that video. Now, let's go over still this question, how to get confident with skills you've learned. First and foremost, like we've gone over before, repetition builds confidence. And I've linked a video before in the past about confidence in soccer. I'll link it again. It's a TED Talk by a college soccer coach who's won titles. Like, this guy knows his stuff. And he talks about this story about a goalkeeper he had, like 6'3" Colombian goalkeeper he had, and they recruited him for college and he couldn't catch the ball. Not like he was bad, but he just couldn't hold on to the ball for some reason. So the coach told him, okay, every single day I want you to go to a wall. I want you to kick it against the wall and catch it 800 times or something like that, like a lot of times, every single day. Now, the goalkeeper, with the mentality of wanting to improve, did that. And we're talking about a goalkeeper who just for some reason couldn't hold on to the ball. He did that. He would kick it against the wall, catch it, kick it against the wall, catch it, kick it against the wall, and catch it, to the point where his hands were drying out, to the point where he was getting calluses on his hands. But the coach then said, guess what happened to that goalkeeper? He's now playing professionally in Europe. Why? Because of repetition. That gave him confidence. I guarantee this player could have caught balls before he did that practice. But through repetition, he became so confident in his ability to catch the ball, which in this scenario, when we'll compare it to skill moves, he was so used to catching the ball, so consistent with it, doing it so many times over and over again, that he was completely confident and without question knew that he could hold on to the ball, he can make the save, and he went on to play professionally. And apparently he did that drill every day for a few months, right? Which is not that long. It's not that long. A few months is not a long period of time. So if you want to really make sure you can pull off a move in a match, the first thing is repetition. So let's say the move you want to learn is a step over. Practice your step overs every single day. Commit it to muscle memory. Repetition builds muscle memory. And what muscle memory essentially is going to be your ability to do that move without even thinking. You'll be able to do it without thinking. It'll be a part of you. Step over is one of my favorite moves. And if you guys watched my latest highlight, actually the last video before this one, before this podcast, you'll have noticed I used that move quite a bit. And each time I used it in that last highlight reel in the match, it worked each and every time. Why? It's because I've done it so much in my own individual practice, I don't even think about it anymore. I just do it. I can't even remember one of the last times I messed up a step over. I'm sure I have, but I can't even remember it because I've done it so often that I don't mess them up that much because of repetition. So that's the first thing. If you want to be more confident in your skills that you're learning, repetition over and over and over again, day by day by day by day, and you will automatically start feeling more confident in that. I mean, I always compare it to taking penalties. If you take a penalty in a match, you're going to feel nervous, right? If you haven't practiced. But let's say for the last month, you've been practicing 50 penalties every single day for a month, and then you're in a match taking a penalty. Do you think you're going to be as nervous? Probably not. You might be a little nervous. I mean, taking a penalty is a pressure situation, but you're not going to be as nervous, right? You're going to be probably a lot more confident in your ability to put that penalty in the net, okay? So that's the first one. And the second one, as we said, is your internal dialogue, is your confidence. The reason you are afraid or that you're messing up these moves in matches is because you're afraid to mess up. But you can't think of it like that. Every single time you do a move in a match and you're committed to pulling off a move, you have to, if you're thinking anything at all, because sometimes you're in the zone and you can't even think, you're just doing, right? And that's ultimately where you want to get. You want to be in that flow state. But if you are thinking, you need to think to yourself and you need to feel it and you need to mean it. You need to mean and feel, I'm going to pull this off perfectly, right? I'm going to beat this person one-on-one. You need to have 100% confidence in your ability to do that. There's no reason to have doubt. It does not support you in any way. It does not benefit you in any way. It does not keep you realistic, as people will tell you. Don't even think that way, because in that moment, the only thing that's going to help you is you believing that you can pull it off, right? So you need to have that ability to, in the moment, have belief in your ability. And we've discussed this in other videos. So again, take a look. I'll leave it at that for this because we have 15 minutes left and a few other questions. But take a look at those two videos. I'm going to leave linked in the description. The first one, again, is how to go from a player that's really good in practices but not so good in matches to a player who's good in both. And the second video is that TED Talk I was talking about with the coach, the college coach, talking about how to be confident, okay? Two really good ones. I've watched that one, and don't skip the TED Talk, seriously, because I've watched that video dozens of times myself because I really want to drill in the ideas of that video. Don't be afraid to repeat videos, whatever. Don't be afraid to repeat information you know is helpful, okay? So that's the first thing. Now, what I want to ask you, and what I want you to leave in the comments, you can pause the video and then write this in the comments. You don't need to post it because I have two more questions for you. But the first question is, what are some things you've done personally to be more confident in your skills in matches? Okay, so I want you to share that with everyone. What are some things you've done to be more confident in your skills in matches. It could be some of the things I mentioned here. Maybe you have a different strategy that I haven't mentioned and is helpful. Put that in the comments so other players can benefit from that. And if it's something you're just struggling, just say that you haven't yet, but make sure you come back and look at what everyone else has posted. Okay, so don't be shy. Put that in there. It's going to help a lot of people, hopefully, in the comments. All right, so let's move on to the next question. Okay, so the next question is how to deal with hate from teammates and other players. Good question. Now, there is a podcast we did cover this, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. I don't remember what podcast it was, I'm sorry, but I think the podcast is literally called How to Deal with Haters. So, if you really want an in-depth answer to that question, because that's essentially what you're asking, go look at that podcast. But we'll review really quickly some of the stuff here. So, how to deal with hate from teammates and other players. So again, we're not going to spend too much time on this one, but we will cover it very briefly. So, hate from teammates I have found is a little harder to deal with than hate from other players, right? I mean, if an opponent tries to wind you up, it's competitive. Like, that's going to happen, right? And the easiest way to deal with that is simply ignore them. Like, I know that's such a cliche thing to say, like, just ignore it. It's like what your parents tell you in first grade. They're like, oh, the bullies, just ignore them as they're punching you in the face or whatever. I don't know. Whatever it may be. Which, when you're in first grade, it's not good advice. But right now, when you're, like, playing in a match where there's officials and there's coaches and there's other players, just ignore them. Because a lot of players will deliberately try and smack talk or will deliberately hate on you to affect your performance. So the best thing you can do is not let it affect your performance negatively. If anything, let it fuel you, let it drive you, let it allow you to play even better. And I can remember, there wasn't that long ago that there was a player smack talking to me, and because I've kind of deployed a certain strategy when people smack talk to me, I barely even noticed he was smack talking me. And I remember it was just in the match, just a regular match, and it wasn't until like after the game that I realized he was smack talking, because I would just ignored him. I literally just ignored him, and I forget what he said, but it was something like he criticized, I took a bad touch or something, and he criticized my touch, or something of that nature. And I just completely ignored him and scored a hat trick in the match. Now, if I had let that little comment affect me, like, I don't know whatever it was, like, oh, you have shit ball control, man, work on your ball, whatever it may have been, or first touch. If I had let that affect me, I probably wouldn't have gone on to score 3 goals in that match, right? But I completely ignored it. I just went, whatever. I barely even registered it. It's like, I don't even hear it anymore. I don't pay attention to what my opponents are saying. I'm not concerned with them. My concern when I'm playing is to win, is to play as well as I can. I'm not concerned with what my opponent is saying to me. Let him deal with his own crap over there. Okay, don't let him psych you out. And the best thing is, when you ignore them, it might actually make them more angry. It might affect their game, right? So just don't worry about it. I don't care what they tell you. I don't care what they say to you. They're just words. They could say the most crappy, inappropriate, terrible thing to you. But it's not going to do you any good by reacting to it, right? Unless you can allow it to fuel you to play better. If you are someone who can take criticism and make it so that it fuels you to be a better player, to be better in that match, then do that. But if you're someone who reacts very angrily, or emotionally in a negative way to someone hating on you or smack talking, you just ignore it. Just concentrate on your game. Do not let them get under your skin, because that's what they're trying to do. Okay, so that's the simple answer. Now, from teammates is a little different, and I can understand that this is different. Okay, don't think that the fact that this is different is lost on me. Getting smack talk from an opponent you're never going to see again is one thing. Getting smack talk and hate from a teammate is completely different, because you got to practice with them, you got to take games with them. Some of them are supposedly your friends, so that's a little different. Okay, I understand that. And there's a few ways you can deal with it. One, again, you can ignore it, because again, I'm sure I've yelled at teammates before. In the heat of the moment, I've said things I've regretted to teammates before. I don't do it as much now, but I have. And so it allows me to understand that it just happens sometimes. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, in a hot-blooded moment, you scream at a teammate, you accidentally hate on them without really being intending to do it. Like if you were level-headed in that moment, you wouldn't have. So for the most part, if a teammate does, again, I'll ignore it. I'll just kind of brush it off and be like, okay, I get it. It's the heat of the moment. It's a match. We're trying to win, right? But I do understand there's persistence sometimes with, I don't know, certain teammates that you have to kind of do. So one thing is you can talk to them if there is a legit problem, and be like, look, I don't know what it can be. I don't know what the situation is, but it can just be like, man, can you just, I get that maybe you're trying to help me or you're trying to tell me to do this, but that's not the way. I don't respond well to that or something of that nature. Once you do that, once you go from there, if it's still happening, then you probably want to go back to ignoring it, because there will be people who are just literally spewing hate without relentlessly just to do it. And you will get crappy teammates like that sometimes. And then the best thing to do is essentially ignore it. Because again, reacting is not going to help you. How's that going to help you? Tell me how that's going to help you. It's not going to help you unless, again, it fuels you. But outside of that, not going to help you. Getting upset's not going to help you. We all know that. You get upset, that affects your performance. So that's not going to help you. But ignoring it and not letting it affect you and just brushing it off and, developing more of a thick skin. And you have to do this. I mean, you look at professional games. I mean, professional players have to develop huge, incredibly tough skins, because they have supporters from opposition teams and sometimes even their own spewing hate at them the whole match, and they can hear it, I guarantee. But I also guarantee that they've learned to tune it out. You ever see a player get the ball for a throw-in and how they just kind of ignore the crowd? I used to think that was funny. I'm like, why are they ignoring? Why don't they, sometimes smile or whatever? Why? Because they're concentrated on the game. They're not concerned with what they're saying, right? So you need to start developing that as well. You need to start developing a tougher skin, and ignoring those kind of things. But again, take a look at that hater podcast I did. I think it's how to deal with haters. That's going to go much more in depth. Okay, so we're going to stop it there. But here is a question. What have you done to deal with haters, either teammates or other players, in your life? And if it's not been working, what are you going to try now in order to deal with them? Okay, so again, leave that answer in the comments, and hopefully your answer can help a player, or a player can come in and give you some advice, or I might even come in and offer some advice too, because I try and read all the comments, guys. All right, so let's move on to the final question. We have 6 minutes, but screw that. We'll go overtime if we have to, because this question is a good one. It's a really good one. It's how to analyze a football game to improve tactically. So I'm gonna have to take a sip of tea for this one. Okay. So something I always mention to you guys, either through these podcasts, through my regular videos. I don't know if I've been mentioning it too much. Actually, I'm making a video for Saturday that actually mentions this idea. And I always say you have to watch matches all the time. You have to watch the best of the best. If a Champions League match is on with good teams, I don't care if you support the team or not, watch it. If a World Cup match is on, if a Euro match is on, if a qualifier between two good teams is on, find a way to watch it. You can stream it online. If you can't get it on TV, do something. Watch highlights of matches. Watch, if you want to understand football more tactically, you need to be watching the game. Watching highlight videos of players is good and more fun, because you're watching, the highlights, the main key events. But it's not going to teach you as much tactically, because there are things that happen tactically that, really are sometimes kind of boring, but they're necessary, right? Like dry runs. Dry runs was one of my least favorite things to do, that my college coach had us do in college, but they're necessary. It's a tactical thing. And if you don't understand how to do those dry runs, if you don't understand what those are, you miss out, right? You're not someone who is thriving tactically. So first and foremost is make sure you're watching games. You will intuitively pick up on things. Second is, this is what I do, and this is what I recommend you do, is whatever your position is, watch that player in that position for both teams and what they're doing, right? Analyze what they're doing, analyze what they're doing right, what they're not doing so well, analyze their their mistakes and what they do well, and kind of try and get inside their head and figure out why are they doing this from a tactical standpoint, right? You can also, I mean, you can also study team tactics as well, like 4-3-3, 4-2-2, diamond four, whatever you want, uh, gegenpressing, which is the Liverpool Jurgen Klopp style. I think that's what's called gegenpressing. Tiki taka. You can possession based football. You can study all these tactical things too, but that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like live in game tactics. And how they're deployed and what certain players do and what they do tactically to have an advantage in the game, because that's what tactics are. It's trying to get an edge in a game tactically. You're trying to find a way to beat your opponent tactically. So the best way to do this is you just got to start watching matches. If you're someone who's not watching matches, if you're someone who's not watching games, if you're someone who's not watching highlights. You can still watch highlights, but like every single day, pretty much, I go to a website called Footy Room, and I'll watch the highlights of some of the best matches that have been played on the day. If there haven't been any played, I might, watch just some compilations. But this has helped me tactically because I can see how teams set up. I can see what certain players are doing tactically. I can analyze what they're doing. I can analyze their mistakes. Analyzing mistakes is a great thing to do because you realize, okay, I should be avoiding that. Don't just analyze success, analyze mistakes as well and failures, because that will teach you what you shouldn't be doing. And you can avoid those things while you can also study what they're doing right and do those things. So tactical knowledge is really going to come through time and watching matches after matches after matches. You can look at breakdowns of tactics too. You can find those all over YouTube. Just look up videos like gegenpressing explained or tiki taka explained, or how to deploy a 4-4-2 formation with a diamond midfield, or whatever it may be. You can look up these different things and learn how those tactics work, but more importantly, learn the different positions in that tactics. What I mean is, what is a specific player doing? What is their job within the tactics? Because let's say you play center defensive mid and you're learning about the way that Jose Mourinho deploys his team. You want to focus on, okay, what does Jose Mourinho tell his center defensive mid to do, right? Tactically, from a tactical standpoint. And you can do that for, what does Pep Guardiola tell his wingers to do tactically? What does Jurgen Klopp tell Roberto Firmino to do? What does he tell his wingbacks to do? Things like that. And that's gonna help you with your game more tactically, specific to whatever position you're playing, right? Because you don't need to know full throttle tactics unless you're trying to be a coach. I mean, it does help to a certain extent, but you definitely want to learn the tactics for your position, right? So again, watch as many matches as you can. And here's the important thing I forgot to mention. When you're watching these matches, don't passively watch them. And that's what most people do, because they'll just watch matches of their team. And I watch Liverpool matches all the time, but I'm constantly looking at things like, what is Jordan Henderson doing at this moment? And why is he doing it? He may not even have the ball. Or I'll look at James Milner making a run and try and understand why he picked that moment to make the run. Things of this nature. Watch it whenever Real Madrid plays. Watch whenever Barcelona plays, or Bayern Munich, or Dortmund, or Arsenal, or Chelsea, or Roma, and Inter Milan, and Juventus. Watch all these teams play, even if you don't support them, because then you can study them. And just ask yourself, each time a player does something, each time they make a run, each time a mistake happens, ask yourself, how come that didn't work out? How come the defense fell apart there? What did the attack do well there tactically in order to get through the defense? Or what did the defense do well to not concede in that match? You have to be asking yourself these questions. If you're just watching passively, you're not going to be answering these questions, and you're not really going to be getting anything tactically out of it. Now, this is only if you are trying to learn things tactically. I mean, if you just want to enjoy the match, you don't have to do this, obviously, because it's sounding more like a study session than an actual enjoying watching a match. But if you want to learn tactics, this is a great way. Just keep watching matches and asking yourself during those matches why certain things are happening, why these mistakes are made, why these things are working. If a team is dominating a match, especially, ask yourself why. What formations are both teams playing, and why is this one working and this one not, right? So if a team's just dominating possession, they're just bombarding the other team's goal, they're scoring goals, just free flowing. What is it? Why? Why is that happening? Sometimes it might just be a player did something magical. Messi may have just beat three players and put it in the upper corner. There's not much tactics there, honestly. It's just, world-class play. But a lot of the time, it'll be a good through ball to the striker who will slot it away. A lot of the time, it'll be, counterattacking. So ask yourself that question when things like that are happening. Why is one team dominating? Why is it not? Why are both teams even? Why are they canceling each other out? If it's a free-flowing game of football, why is that? What tactics are being deployed? What players are doing what things to allow this to happen? So as you can see, this is a lot to take in, and I understand. But just constantly be asking questions during the match like that and try and understand it. And try and, get in the heads of the best players in the world and think, why are they doing certain things, right? And once you understand why they're doing certain things, you can start implementing them you can start doing them in your own game. You can start working on those things, right? You'll start, like, for example, if you watch Iniesta or someone, you could be like, okay, why did he pick that pass over this pass? And then when he does something well, you can be like, oh, I see why he did that, right? And you do that enough times, and you'll be in matches, and you'll be like, maybe I should do this instead of that, which I normally do, and you'll see it being pulled off. You'll learn what works and what doesn't. Okay, so that's how I'm gonna leave it at that. I know this is a question, honestly, that I can go on forever about, but we've already exceeded time. So here's a question for you, and it pretty much is exactly relevant to what I just spoke about watching matches. So how often do you watch matches or videos of games each week? So I want you to put in the description, sorry, not the description, the comments, how often you actually watch matches, or compilations or videos of games or whatever, and actually analyze them. And if you're someone who is watching a lot of matches and you're not analyzing them, start trying to analyze them a little more so that you understand what's actually going on in the game. You should understand almost everything that's going on in the game once you get good at this from a tactical standpoint. Okay? So answer that question. So I had 3 questions for you. I'm going to briefly go over them again. The first one is, what are some things you've done to be more confident in your skills and skill moves in matches? Second one is, what have you done to deal with haters, either teammates or other players? And if you haven't been dealing so well, what are you going to try and do next? What is your next strategy? That's much better than winging it, by the way. Try new things. And the last question, how often do you watch matches or videos of games each week? So answer those questions and put them in the comments. I will be responding to some of you. I will be monitoring the comments to see what you guys say, but also help each other out, interact with each other, help each other get better. If you have a strategy, like I said, like confident with skills and matches that I didn't mention, or even if it is one I mentioned, let us know, so players can use that to help themselves. And just, share strategies with each other, guys. Share what works for you and what doesn't work and everything like that, okay? So that's all our questions we have. And remember, any questions you do have, put down there as well as I'll use them for the next podcast. Okay, so we need a hashtag, don't we? What questions do we have? Yeah, we'll put hashtag tactics, since that was the last question. So hashtag tactics. If you put hashtag tactics in the comments, it allows me to know you've listened all the way through this podcast, which kind of helps me identify the players who are really on the path of improvement and really are committed to learning, as much as possible. It also shows me, kind of the people who really enjoy the content, and it's always nice to see that. So even if you don't have a question, leave hashtag tactics with the answer to the questions I've given you. And if you do have a question, remember, if you do hashtag tactics, it's more likely that I'll answer your question, because I want to be answering the questions of the people who are actually listening all the way, not the people who come to it, listen for 2 minutes, and then ask a question because the question they wanted answered wasn't answered. Okay, so there you go. So make sure you put that down there below. If you have any questions for me again like that, let me know. Also, what other videos you guys want in the future. Let me know if you like this format with me actually asking you guys questions. I think it's good because it helps you guys really put something down. So it's kind of like when you write something down, you're more clear about what you're trying to do, your goals, kind of more things about yourself. So you can kind of see them in front of you instead of just having them kind of float around in your head. So I like that, but let me know what you think. If you like that I'm asking you questions and asking you to answer them, or would you prefer not to have that included? Okay, guys, so make sure you do all of that. I will have more details about the shirts that I mentioned soon. I'll have once it. I'm waiting for the prototype one to arrive. I think it's going to take like a week or between 7 to 10 business days, they said. And I'll also have more information about the my journey, my soccer journey video as well in the next coming weeks. So stay tuned for that. All right, guys, thank you again for listening to the podcast. We'll try and make sure we're not missing weeks like we did last week and staying consistent with once a week. Make sure you check out the video I'll have out tomorrow, as we're trying to have 4 pieces of content out each week. And guys, if you're not following me on Instagram, make sure you start. It's at SimplySoccer Pro. That's the handle name, because I'm releasing actually 2 pieces of content every single day on there, and that's kind of like my second like home for Simply Soccer outside of YouTube. All right, guys. So thank you for listening. Make sure you use that hashtag I mentioned earlier. Make sure you answer those questions, and I'll talk to you on the next podcast.